beginning a remarkable journey through time to celebrate the Millennium. This is BBC One at the start of the biggest live broadcast ever. 2000 Today is introduced by David Dimbleby.
Hello from Greenwich and welcome to BBC's One 2000 Today. Over the next 28 hours, as the Earth spins on its axis, we're going to be following the sun setting on the old millennium and rising on the new. And the clock here at Greenwich is already ticking away the final minutes and seconds to the new century. 14 hours, 44 minutes, 22, 21, 20 seconds and counting. And we're here at Greenwich because this is the universally acknowledged home of time. It's based on this line, an imaginary line, but actually you can see it on the pavement here, 0 degrees longitude, where east meets west. In international law, the new year 2000 doesn't actually officially begin until it begins here, which doesn't of course mean other places don't celebrate it at their own midnights, far from it. In only 3/4 of an hour from now, the tiny uninhabited Millennium Island at the east of Kiribati in the Pacific, over 8,000 miles away from here, is going to be the first to say goodbye 1999 and a few hours later to welcome the first sunrise of the year 2000. We're going to be there as BBC One joins 60 other countries, all celebrating the dawn of a new century. Our journey is going to take us from Beijing to Moscow, from Sydney to Los Angeles. We're going to be in India, in South America, in Africa, Australasia. We're going to be in Antarctica. And of course, here in these islands. We'll see Britons from the North Sea to the Atlantic Ocean as they take part in all the reunions, the parties, the celebrations, and the commemorations of the past 100 years. And as midnight approaches, we're going to be over there, down at the Millennium Dome. The Queen will be arriving there by river after lighting a Millennium beacon. The Archbishop of Canterbury and the Prime Minister will be there too, as with 12,000 guests, if they all get their tickets in time, they join the countdown and the music and the partying that leads up to midnight. And as Big Ben strikes 12, a spectacular river of fire will streak up the Thames from Tower Bridge to Westminster, moving at nearly 700 miles an hour. The speed the Earth itself turns and the time moves across the globe. And that's only the start of it. There's lots more. And to hear about it, we join Michael Parkinson in the 2000 Today studio. Michael.
David, thank you. Welcome to BBC Television Centre here in London for 2000 Today. This is the last programme on BBC One before the start of the year 2000. And when we go off the air tomorrow afternoon, we'll be halfway into the first day of the next 1,000 years. 2000 Today is the biggest and the most ambitious television programme ever made, a once-in-a-lifetime experience. There are celebrations going on all around the world, all at different times, and we're going to be there. Over 60 countries are taking part. We estimate that we'll have an audience worldwide of over 1 billion people. We'll be starting in the tiny, uninhabited South Pacific island of Kiribati, where it'll be midnight in just under an hour when it's 10 o'clock here. And we'll finish 28 hours later in Samoa. We'll be seeing the setting of the sun and its rising across the world as 1999 becomes 2000. Quite simply, we'll witness the sun set on one millennium and rise on another right across this planet of ours. Now, in the studio with me, because I'm not doing all this by myself, of course, is Gaby Roslin. Gaby, good morning.
Good morning.
Big day.
Big day, raring to go.
And for you too, because you're going to do the silly thing and stay in the studio for the entire 30 hours.
Yes, I've got a rolled up little sleeping bag under here that nobody can see.
What are you going to do, catnap?
Under the table.
Peter Sissons is with us too, of course. A big day ahead, Peter.
Oh, the biggest global party you or I will ever see or report on. Huge potential for unpredictable events. Much of it is predictable as the sun shadow sweeps across the Earth. But unpredictability at this time of the year is par for the course. Big news events usually happen. Indeed, we've got the first of them already. We're getting reports from Moscow that Boris Yeltsin, the president, has resigned. The president of Russia has resigned and handed power to Vladimir Putin. So BBC News will be bringing you regular updates on all this and more during the day from the Millennium News Desk here in the studio. and I'll be doing the first shift.
And of course the big running story, I suppose, apart from the President Yeltsin's story, of course, will be the Millennium bug. There's much speculation about that.
It's been hyped for so long, we'll find out whether it's going to be a non-event or really has the potential to inflict catastrophe.
Peter, thank you. Well, to put it all in the scientific and historical context, we've got the team from Tomorrow's World, Peter Snow and Philippa Forrester. Peter.
Yes, Mike, we'll be telling the story of time, yesterday, today and tomorrow, and I'll be watching its passage around the world over the next 24 hours as the sun rises on the new millennium. We'll be taking a Tomorrow's World look at the technology we can expect to see in the years ahead too. And has yesterday's technology landed us with a disaster? The Millennium bug. We'll see if it bites tonight. Philippa's at the home of time itself in Greenwich.
Yep, I'll be here in Greenwich finding out why this place has a unique claim to be the centre of the big event, why this spot is the basis for the actual Meridian line for the whole world, and we'll be looking at the clocks that finally allowed us to conquer time.
This is an amazing studio. It operates on many levels, and up there in the crow's nest with an overview of the world, we've got Fergal Keane. Fergal, good morning.
Thanks, Michael. Good morning and a huge millennial welcome from up here in the crow's nest. Now, over the next 28 hours, television images from 60 countries around the world will be flooding in here to TV Centre. And our job up here in the crow's nest is to sift through them and bring the very best of it to you. So I'll be talking to you again soon. Michael.
And finally, just in case everything else goes down, we can always fall back on the familiar disembodied voice of Alan Dedicoat. Are you there, Alan?
I am indeed, Michael. I'm actually in the nerve centre of the whole thing, surrounded by computers this morning. I've got uplinks, downlinks, a couple of lottery draws to do either side of midnight. It's all here, in fact, and I'm particularly looking forward to a highlight dear to your heart, Michael, Barnsley's Canal of Fire.
It's always on fire, Alan. Putting it out will be the problem.
Indeed, indeed.
What's he look like, Alan Dedicoat? And we'll be meeting with hundreds of other guests here in the studio, and of course, millions worldwide.
Now, our schedule is completely dictated by time. Unlike a football match, which can be delayed, or a recorded programme which can be transmitted at a different time, we cannot alter the fact of the movement of the planet. So 2000 Today consists of a series of deadlines which we have to meet, starting with that first midnight on Kiribati in the South Pacific and that big midnight celebration in Sydney at 1 o'clock our time. After that, we'll be tracking the midnight line across Asia and Europe as it approaches the UK. After that, we'll follow the celebrations as they start across the Atlantic in America, and then we'll see the sunrise on the new millennium.
I think Sydney might be one of the great highlights. That's
amazing.
Spectacular. I'd love to be there.
You're
Britain,
here.
I know I'm here, yes, I know, stuck here. Britain in 1999 has been remarkable for many things, and one of the most striking is the way centuries of English domination have come to an end. We've got a Scottish Parliament, a Welsh Assembly, and most recently, and perhaps most welcome of all, real signs of peace in Northern Ireland. This will be the first time these nations have seen in the new year with this newly re-established autonomy. So there really is something special to celebrate, as we'll see during the course of the next 28 hours. Let's go first of all to Tim Vincent in Cardiff. Tim?
Hello and welcome to Cardiff, Europe's fastest growing city. We have a tremendous amount to be proud of and to celebrate here, including our brand new stadium, which hosted the Rugby World Cup back in October, and is tonight the event where we will be hosting the 10th anniversary party of the Manic Street Preachers. This will be their first and last gig of the year 2000, so it's a pretty special night for rock fans. However, if you haven't got tickets, don't worry, there'll be plenty of partying going on down in the streets. There will be a huge lantern display taking place this afternoon from Cardiff Castle. It will start from the medieval splendour of Cardiff Lock, which will then wind its way through the streets down to the Civic Centre behind me, which also boasts one of the finest collection of public buildings throughout Wales. Now, the partying will start down on the streets, and hopefully somewhere down there is Sian Lloyd.
Yes, I am. Diolch yn fawr iawn, bore da, Tim. Well, behind me, we've a fun fair stretching all the way down the boulevard. And quite soon now, the big thrill rides and the more traditional ones will swing into action. Well, a little bit later on, I'm going to be in the middle of an amazing procession of 300 musicians and dancers emerging from Cardiff Castle. A real riot of colour and movement. Yep, here in the capital of Wales, we've been preparing for some time now.
Well, there you go. It looks like it's going to be a great day and night for partying here in Wales. The weather is keeping fine at the moment, but now it's time to go to Shauna Lowry in Londonderry.
Good morning from a damp Derry, but we won't let the weather here dampen our spirits at all, because today is going to be a great day for Derry. It may look a bit quiet here, everyone is still asleep, but later on these walls of the city are going to be lined with thousands of people celebrating the new millennium. Behind me is the historic city of Derry. It's Northern Ireland's second city, and it's one of the most widely recognised places in the province. Sadly, though, it has been the backdrop for many scenes of distressing conflict of the troubles of the past 30 years. But things are changing here for the better. The atmosphere today is so different. The tension seems to be gone, and you can almost feel the optimism in the air. There's a real sense of people coming together, and that's exactly what's going to be happening later on. We've got some great Millennium events lined up. People, as I say, are going to be coming down here to the square, and there's going to be 2,000 voices here in the Guildhall singing live the famous Irish song Danny Boy to the tune of the Londonderry Air. It's a real Derry anthem, and we're also going to be joined by the singer Rebecca Storm in Dublin with the 3 Irish tenors, so reuniting the whole island of Ireland in song. It's going to be brilliant. And then also later on we've got a circle of light, a human circle of light, where people from all sides of the community are going to come and line these city walls with blazing torches as a sign of unity, to say that they're really looking forward with lots of hope for the new millennium. Now, these walls are very significant for Derry. They've been here for 400 years and have witnessed scenes of grief and strife, not only sieges, battles, but also the troubles. And they are actually something that's going to be playing an enormous part in Derry's history. They're proud of these walls, and it's something that everybody is looking forward to joining in and celebrating, one of the last remaining cities of Europe. And now we're going to go over to another beautiful fortress, the city of Edinburgh, to join Kirsty Wark. We'll see you a bit later on.
Welcome to this wonderful Hogmanay morning in Scotland. Hogmanay is what we call New Year's Eve, and Hogmanay somehow sounds much more romantic. And it dates back to the old alliance between Scotland and France. Apparently it's a 16th century dialect word from northern France meaning gift and present. And traditionally here in Scotland at midnight, Scots visit family, friends and neighbours bearing gifts. It could be shortbread, it could be whiskey, it could be black bun, but it could also be coal. I can remember people coming to our house bringing coal to put on the fire. So there's a magnificent feeling, a great atmosphere building in the city of Edinburgh already. Here I am on Princes Street in the midst of 7 days of celebrations. And although now people are just generally going about their business, by tonight this place will be stowed with 200,000 revellers seeing in the new year and indeed seeing in the new millennium. Now there's a variety of events, from live music in Princes Street also to the Winter Wonderland, which is Britain's, the UK's indeed, largest outdoor ice rink, put on specially for these 7 days of celebrations. There'll also be a sunset encounter with HRH, the Prince of Wales, who's been in the capital for the last 24 hours. And also tonight in Edinburgh, on the Castle Esplanade up there, we're going to hear from the live Scottish top band Texas. They're going to be playing a charity concert on the magnificent Castle Esplanade overlooking the city, and I'll be talking later to Charlene Spittieri. Of course, it's not just Edinburgh celebrating the end of the old year and the beginning of the new. 300 miles away from Edinburgh, on the most northerly islands of Britain, Shetland fiddler Ali Bain has made a special trip home to be with his own folk on mainland Shetland to bring in the new millennium. On the northeast coast we'll have a fire festival in Stonehaven. They have an annual midnight fireball festival. We'll be seeing that as it happens. And also for the first time this year we have a very unusual fire festival which is taking place in the wonderful Renaissance Palace of Stirling Castle, right in the heart of Scotland, immortalised as only Hollywood can do in the movie Braveheart. I'm delighted to say that the charming Fred Macaulay will also be joining us from Glasgow. So I'll be here throughout the day as we celebrate the arrival of the new millennium. And now back to London and Michael Parkinson.
Kirsty, thank you. Before we continue our preview, let's catch up with more on that breaking story about President Yeltsin resigning. Is it official, Peter?
It is official. President Yeltsin has made a television broadcast saying he's resigning immediately, and Russia would be run by Prime Minister Vladimir Putin until presidential elections next March. Yeltsin said, "I'm going. I did all I could." They say that he was speaking haltingly. He stared down an attempted coup d'etat, remember, 9 years ago, when he was much more vigorous as a leader of Russia. He said his resignation was not due to health concerns now, but for a whole variety of reasons. "I've been replaced by a new generation. I've charged the head of the government, Vladimir Putin, to take over my duties." That reference to a new generation perhaps suggests a little more about the timing of it on the brink of the new century. He's a bit of a showman, and it's entirely in character for him to try to upstage us all at this stage.
And he has the man in place, of course, who he wants there.
Putin is the man he wants, and Putin is very popular.
Yes.
The odds on Putin becoming the next president must be very high, on the back of the war in Chechnya, which is a popular war.
Sure. Peter, thank you very much. We'll keep you updated on that throughout the programme, of course. Now, back to our preview. We'll be seeing a lot more of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland over the course of the programme with regular updates. We'll also be dropping in on dozens of other places around the country and seeing some of the wonderful, spectacular and just plain daft things that people are getting up to for this great celebration.
Now, we're also going abroad where Millennium mayhem is breaking out all over the world. Here are some of the milestones of the next few hours. So the first midnight we've got in Kiribati, Tonga, of course.
Right.
And Fergal Keane will be reporting on the sunset over the Great Wall of China, and also the last midday chimes of Big Ben at midday, surprisingly enough, and sunset over the Taj Mahal.
Just confusing, isn't it? Yeah. Now, we all know we're celebrating the arrival of the year 2000, but is really the start of the new millennium. And what's the millennium all about anyway? Peter Snow has got the story. Peter.